I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the deliverer of the most fallen souls, whose mercy enables the lame to cross mountains and enables the dumb to become eloquent speakers. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse number 1. Sutta vacha Adatam sukamasina Upasinam brihadshravah Devarshihi praha viparshim Veena pani smayan iva. Translation. Suta Goswami said, thus the sage among the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi amongst the Brahmanas, Vedavyas. Purport. Narada was smiling because he knew he well knew the great sage Vedavyas and the cause of his disappointment. As he will explain gradually, Vyasadeva's disappointment was due to insufficiency in presenting the signs of devotional service. Narada knew the defect, and it was confirmed by the position of Vyas. So, we can see in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that this is usually the etiquette, that when you receive a great sage, that this is how you receive him, this is how you address him. For example, the first verse of the second chapter, they said, Vyasa vacha iti samprashna samhrishno vipranam romaharshini patipuja vachastesham pravaktam upachakrame. He says that, after being comfortably seated and ask questions properly, being fully satisfied, Suta Goswami answers the questions unto him. Before that, in the first chapter, they say, Naimishe nimishashete rishayasuna kadaya. So there they say in the great forest of Naimisharanya, the sages comfortably seat Suta Goswami and then ask him such questions. You see, and then Suta Goswami being pleased, then he gives such answers. This is usually the etiquette that we see in when a great personality is received. And here you can see it's a very similar context. Narada was smiling because he knew the great sage Vedavyas. Similarly in Arjuna's situation, when he is confused on the battlefield, he sees that Krishna sees him, and Arjuna is telling him, Krishna, I don't know what my duty is. I'm not able to figure out what the right thing that needs to be done. Can you explain to me what I need to do? And Krishna smilingly tells him, the Acharya say Krishna is smiling in that time, because basically he's trying to imply that here you see Drona, you see Bhishma, you see your seniors right in front of you, why don't you ask them? But then when Arjuna surrenders, then Krishna then he delivers unto him the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. So we can see here also similarly that Narada was smiling, just like when Arjuna was lamenting, Krishna was also smiling, wondering what happened, what's going on here, and then when they surrender, then they speak heavy words. You see here Narada in the future verses we'll see that he says Jugupsitam. Jugupsitam means you're creating a big havoc. What are you doing? People are going to take your instructions to gratify their senses and not take to self-realization. You will be the cause of Jugupsitam. Similarly, Krishna tells Arjuna in Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Ashoshananvachoshasvam, Pragnashvadam Shabhashase, Gatasuna cha, Nanushoshanti Pandita. That, Arjuna, although you're speaking great learned words, you're actually simply talking like a fool. You think yourself a great wise scholar, talking, Adharma bhivavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyaha Sri Shudushtasu Vaishneya Jayate Varna Shankaraha. He's telling all these arguments against Krishna. And if you read the first chapter, you'll feel like, wow, Arjuna has really good points there. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Why would he do all this? But Krishna tells him, you're simply talking like a fool. All of Arjuna's arguments that defeated, for example, the whole question of Varna Shankara and Adharma, Krishna answers in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He tells him, Traigunaya Vishaya Veda Nishtraiguna Bhavarjuna Nidvando Nitya Samvaso Niryoga Shema Atmaman. He says that, Arjuna, whatever arguments you're bringing up about the bad population, about adharma, and all, these are all questions pertaining to karma kanda. Your questions, because they pertain to karma kanda, they ultimately don't lead to the highest perfection of life. So rise above the three modes of material nature, rise above these petty karma kanda questions, and actually make inquiries and act on the platform which will help you gain self-realization. You may think that when you perform certain sort of activities, or if you don't perform these activities, you'll be freed from sin. But in reality, if Arjuna even did not fight, it will still be sinful because it's his duty to fight. So he needs to perform his duty. So Narada is smiling upon Vedavyas because he knows the cause of his disappointment. The cause of his disappointment is that he didn't fully explain the transcendental science of Krishna consciousness. That's the problem. We'll read in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse number 20. I'll actually recite the 3 verses and then, to explain, how Krishna puts all these in perspective. He says, Traividyamam soma papu tapapam yagna ishva swargatim patayante te punyamashadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam shine punye marti lokam vishanti evam trai dharma manu prapanna gatagatam kama kama labante. Then he says, Ananya shintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. He says, now you see, Traividya mam suma paputa papam. Okay, so you have these great brahmanas who study the 3 Vedas. The 3 Vedas, Rig, Sama and Yajur Vedas. They study these and they're known as the 3 Vedis. These brahmanas, they perfectly study them. They study Sanskrit for 12 years minimum, and then they learn the Vedas, they learn the rituals, they chant the mantras and they elevate themselves to the heavenly planets where they can drink Somarasa. And then as instead of going to the spiritual world, instead of attaining the platform of self-realization, they simply purify their mind and they purify their bodies in order to go to these heavenly planets. And once they reach the heavenly planets, they can enjoy sense gratification so much. You see? But Prabhupada writes in this purport, he says, actual 3 Vedas, actually those who actually understand the 3 Vedas, they take shelter of Krishna. Actual 3 Vedas take shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and engage in pure devotional service to satisfy the Lord. Devotional service begins with the understanding of the Hare Krishna mantra and side by side trying to understand Krishna in truth. Unfortunately, those who are simply official students of the Vedas become more interested in offering sacrifices to different demigods like Indra and Chandra. By such endeavor, the worshippers of different demigods are certainly purified of the contamination of the lower qualities of nature and are thereby elevated to higher planetary systems. Once situated in these higher planetary systems, one can satisfy his senses hundreds of thousands of times better than on this planet. So basically, you accrue enough money in the bank and then you go and spend it in Hawaii where you can enjoy sense gratification to the unlimited amount, not unlimited amount, to how much of a karma you have. And then what happens, so after they enjoy this Swarga Lokam Vishalam, you see. Swarga means heavenly planets. Loka means, Swarga Loka means the heavenly planets. And so, they enjoy Vishala, you see. Tetam Bhuktva Swarga Lokam Vishalam, you see. They go and their Bhuktva, their Bhoga, their enjoyment is Vishalam, it's huge, it's amazingly large. The amount of time they have, the amount of enjoyment they can feel is amazingly large. But then after that, what happens? What happens is they gata-gatam kama labante. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that actually, you see, instead of elevating themselves to Krishna consciousness, one simply undergoes the routine work. Prabhupada uses this word, routine work, very, to the point. He says it's simply a routine work that you come, you perform sacrifices, you go up, and then you come down, and you go up and you come down. It's just like a Ferris wheel. Prabhupada uses the example of a Ferris wheel. In Kali Yuga, unfortunately, the only people that are going to the heavenly planets are our devotees, because we chant the the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we follow the 4 regulative principles, So this is great. So this is enough if we don't understand Krishna and truth, it's enough qualification for us to go to the heavenly planets, right? And everyone else is going to hell. That's the truth, because people have the tendency to take anything. The nature of the conditioned soul is to see that there's something there for his enjoyment, for his exploitation. So the whole chastisement of Narada Muni is the fact that the nature of a jiva is to exploit whatever is in front of him for his sense gratification. So people will exploit Veda-Vyasa's instructions about what he said about karma kanda, and mostly karma kanda, a little bit jnana kanda. They'll just take full on advantage of this, and in the name of religion they will not surrender to Krishna. Ultimately, sin is not papa or punya. Sin is the displeasure of Krishna. You can be a very pious Brahmana. These Brahmanas, the wives of the Vedic Brahmanas chapter in the Christian book we read, that these Brahmanas, they were so elevated, they were so pious. They're performing all these yajnas, and they're performing all the rituals, and they were doing all these things, but they caused displeasure to Krishna, and that's the greatest sin. Ultimately, that's the greatest sin, because it's going to keep you in the material world. You may have golden shackles, or you may have bronze shackles, or you may have silver shackles. But ultimately, shackles are shackles, and they're going to bind you to the material world. That is the nature of not surrendering to Krishna, because the nature of the jiva is to simply enjoy bhoga aishwarya prashaktanam. They only want bhoga and aishwarya, and they'll do anything to get that bhoga and aishwarya. So now Vyasadeva was being chastised by Narada Muni. You will see in the next verses, he chastises him. Aren't you happy with just identifying with the body and the mind? Aren't you just happy? Aren't you just satisfied with that? The answer is no. The answer is a living entity is purely and solely satisfied whether they engage in unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the nature of a jiva ultimately. Jiva swarupoy Krishna nityadas. That the nature of the living entity is to be fully surrendered to Krishna. And if he doesn't do that, he will simply face disappointment. The word Narada means to deliver. That's the word that's the meaning of the word Narada. So Narada delivers unto all living entities the greatest benediction, the boon of the goal of life. That's the nature of the Guru Parampara, that they come down and they give us the most auspicious, the most kalyana. Praptasya kalyana gunarna vasya vande guru shri charanarvindam. The spiritual masters, he comes and he observes the beautiful qualities on the ocean of Krishna Prema, and he comes and showers that upon the living entities who are struggling in the fire of birth and death. No matter how comfortable your position is, anityam asukam lokam. Krishna tells you in the Bhagavad Gita, he tells us, anityam asukam lokam. This world is anityam. This world is temporary, and it's asukam. It's full of misery. You may be under the illusion that you are enjoying in your pigeonhole apartment on the World Trade Center. You may feel very happy, wow, look at me. The only reason I built this skyscraper building is so I can have people living under me and I can live on the top. How long can you live on the top? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Okay, 50 years? How long can you live? And then you're happy, you're comfortable. No sir, I don't want to leave. Sorry sir, you have to get out. Time comes and kills you. Nitya sarva harasham. Krishna will come as death. Krishna will come as death personified. And for those who don't see this proper understanding of what Krishna consciousness is, for those who don't see that Vedesha sarver ahameva vedya vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham, that those who don't see that Krishna is the ultimate goal of the Vedas, then they are lost. Moghasha moga karmano, moga gnana vichetasaha, rakshasim asurim shaiva, prakriti mohinim shita. Moga asha. Because they don't understand Krishna, their asha, their hope, moga, is baffled. Moga asha moga karmano. The so-called karma that they'll perform using Vyasadev's instructions, they're going to perform this yagyan, that yagyan, this and that, and all these things. Mogasha moga karmano. Moga, baffled karma. Their karma is going to be baffled. Mogasha, moga karmana, moga gnana vichetasa. All the so-called intelligence, all their knowledge, all their I'm a Trivedi, I know the three Vedas, I am so great. All this nonsense is going to be destroyed. Moga karmana, moga jnana vichetasa, rakshasi masirim shaiva, prakriti mohinim chita. They're simply going to be baffled at every step and bewildered, and they're not going to attain the highest perfection of life. That's what happens. Recently we were in a Ugadi celebration event, and then a person came up to our table and he saw Srila Prabhupada's books, and he said, Bhaktivedanta Swami, he translates mostly like Christians translate. Just their whole translation is just like Christians. I said, what's so Christian about this translation? Please tell me. He said, he uses the word Godhead. Why can't he use the word God? So Christians don't use the word God? So then he said, actually there's only like 3 bona fide understandings. It's only the one coming from Shankaracharya. That's not bona fide, but according to him it's bona fide. Shankaracharya, the one coming from Ramanuja, and one coming from Madhva. I said, okay, so you know all this, but you don't know what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. And he said, no, I am from IIT Kharagpur. I've been inside Mayapur for so long, and I've lived there, and I wondered, what have you understood? I haven't understood anything. Then I asked him, so, do you know the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? Have you ever read the Bhagavatam? Have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Not only have I read it, I even teach it. So I said, okay, so what is the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? Then he said, he quoted, Nigama kalpataro gharitam phalam. He knew that verse. I said, okay, very good, you know this verse. So you do agree that the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge, yes? He said, yes. And I said, okay, wonderful. Then, so you also agree the verse in the Bhagavatam which says, Krishna varna tusha krishnam, sango pangasa parshadam, yajnai sanketana prayar, yajanta hi shumedasaha. You agree that also? Do you agree with that? And he said, I said, can you explain to me? You're a great scholar. Can you explain what this verse means to me? And he said, you Hare Krishnas, you just take one small sentence from one small something, and you just say, like Christians, you proselytize and you do and you preach. I'm not talking about what Hare Krishnas do. I'm asking what the scripture is saying. Can you explain to me what this verse says? So Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna, that he is of Krishna, but not the color of Krishna. Sango Pangasa Parshadam, he comes down with his weapons and his associates. Yajnai Sankitana Praya Rejantahi Sumedasa. I said, do you have any Medasa? Do you have any Sumedasa? Do you have any intelligence? If you do have intelligence, you will agree, you will admit that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is great, but he's not on the platform of Ramanuja, Shankara and Madhva. I said, you're right, he isn't, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and these are all Jivas. He said, you were just fanatical and this. How am I fanatical? I'm quoting from the verses. I said, if you want to be stuck in your dogma, go ahead and be stuck in your dogma. But this is reality. I'm talking, the Bhagavatam distinguishes reality from illusion for the welfare of all. So I'm trying to have an intellectual, academic argument, a debate with you. And why are you running away from the argument? He said, it's funny that Hare Krishna is talking about dogma. It's actually funny that you claim to know all these philosophies in a freaking Ugadi event. What are you doing Ugadi event? They're going to come and they're going to glorify mucus, stool and pus and bones. What are you doing there? If you really understand the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you'll understand Mumukshavo Gora Rupan Hitva Bhuta Patinata Narayana Kalashanta Bhajantya Nusuyava. Although the Vaishnavas are humble and they're all pleasing to everyone they meet, they reject the nasty, ghastly forms of the various demigods, and they solely worship the beautiful form of Vishnu and his incarnations. You would have did that, but he walked away at this point. That's it, game over, finish. He was walking, finished, game over. Why? Because they can't handle the truth. And why? Because Vyasadeva, this is a whole point of Narada Muni's chastisement, is that you have given them an excuse to avoid Krishna. You have given them a perfect excuse to avoid Krishna. In Hinduism is an elaborate arrangement to use the Vedas to somehow avoid Krishna. That is Hinduism. If you want to put it in a way elaborate, somehow keep Krishna out of the picture. Just keep him. He's not the hero of the Mahabharata, so you keep him. He's just a politician. He misguides people. He's a cunning fellow. They chastise Krishna however they like. These Mudat Naradamas. That's how they chastise, because that's Kali Yuga. They can enjoy their bitter, rotten fruit of their activities and eat that in Kali Yuga in a Ugadi celebration. They can do all these things. It is Kali Yuga. they come and they chastise Krishna. They say, oh, Krishna is not like this, Krishna is not like that. And Veda Vyas gives them excuses also. Actually, in one of the Tamasic Puranas, it says that, Vishnu was lying down and he had one black hair and one grey hair. And from that black hair, when it fell down, it became Krishna. And from the white hair, when it fell down, it became Balaram. And then they came. So these are Tamasic Puranas. They say like that. You see. But Acharyas say, these are meant for those who cannot accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedas are all encompassing for sure, but at this point, Narada Muni is chastising Veda Vyas that he was not sufficiently presenting the science of devotional service. Narada knew the defect. That is the defect. If you don't sufficiently present the science of devotional service, then there's a defect. Veda Vyas says, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, he writes, Veda Vyas writes, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evanyoti tatvata tyaktva deyam punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. So Narada Muni is chastising him. Where is the Janma Karma Divyam that you have? Where have you described the Janma Karma Divyam of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Where have you described the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Where have you done this? Where? And that's his whole point of chastisement. That's why, Krishna says in the next verse, I didn't translate, Ananya Shintayantam Mam. Krishna says, for those who are constantly meditating upon my transcendental form, I preserve what they have and I carry what they lack. That is the ultimate goal of yoga. So Veda Vyas spoke about yoga in the Upanishads, but the ultimate goal, yoga kshemam, finally the shelter at which you can never return to the material world. Yoga kshemam vahameham. Krishna protects what you have and he'll carry what you lack. You see, and that's the point that Narada Muni is so heavily speaking to Veda Vyas about. You see, so we can understand from this that for those who are in the line of a bona fide disciplic succession but are not presenting the science of devotional service sufficiently, they deserve to be chastised by those who are presenting the science of devotional service sufficiently. If they do not follow such a rigorous and tivra bhakti process given by the acharyas, but they're watering it down to simply add a little spice of Krishna consciousness to your life and live happily ever after in the material world, we have to speak strongly against these things because that is our line. Unfortunately, that could not be pleasing for other people, but we are not here to please other people. We are not here, Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada would say, we are not here to please Jana. We are here to please Janardana. Jana means population, the common populace. We are not here to please the vox populi. We are here to please Janardana, the Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our words, our actions, our every activity, everything we do is meant for the pleasure of Krishna's, for Krishna's senses. We see the Bhagavatam tells us, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. That no matter what you are, no matter how lusty you are, how unlusty you are, how sense-controlled you are, no matter what your position is, worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna tivra with intense devotion. Have faith that tasmat bhayata sarvatma bhagavan ishvaro harihi Shotavya kititavyasya smartavya shetatabayam. With single pointed attention, hear and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by doing so, and by attentively hearing these verses, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by attentively hearing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have no need to fear. Abhay Charana Ravinda. Because you have taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Abhay, Abhayam. You're fearless. Because fear itself is scared of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ugram viram mahavishnu jvalantam sarvatomukam nirsimham bishanam badram mrityur mrityum namamyaham. That fear and death personified itself is scared of Nrsingadev. That's why we're fearless. We don't care what people think. We simply have to preach the absolute truth, putting aside all other things. What happened? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada got instruction from Bhaktivinoda Thakur that you have to go get initiation from Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And being rejected, first Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada approached Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He said, I'll ask Mahaprabhu. And then, he comes back and asks, so what did Mahaprabhu say? And he said, I forgot to ask. And then third time he comes and he asks, so what did Mahaprabhu say? He didn't say anything. So then, Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, the great scholar, the epitome of all scholarship, epitome of morality, epitome of all good qualities that you could find in the material world, the heaviest personality, a personality so heavy that one could, sometimes when he would really get into a debate with someone and it's their whole life's work, he could defeat them to such a heavy degree that they involuntarily pass urine and stool. That's how heavy of a personality Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada was. And he breaks down in front of his Gurudev and he says, Yogyate vichare kichina ipai tumara karuna sara. Karuna na hoile kandiya prana rakibo ara. He says, Yogyate vichare kichina ipai. If you examine me, Gurudev, you will find no good qualities. You'll find absolutely no good qualities. Yogyate vichare kichina ipai tumara karuna sara. That's why I'm in full need of your mercy. Karuna na hoile kandiya prana rakibo ara. That if you don't give me your mercy, I will simply weep and die. And then Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj, after he gave him initiation, he kept his two lotus feet on the head of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada and told him, preach the absolute truth, putting aside all other things. That is a primary instruction coming down from the Guru Parampara. That is a battery that runs our whole ISKCON movement. That is a battery that actually gives life to all the other activities in our movement. That we preach the absolute truth, putting aside all other things. Neither Shastrating Vedavyas, why aren't you preaching the absolute truth, putting aside all other things? Why? You're causing jugupsitam. You're causing a disturbance in society. Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Ekantaki Harer Bhakte Uppatyatya Iva Kalpate. Then if you're performing devotional service which is not in line with the Shruti, Smriti and Puranas given by the bona fide acharyas, you're simply going to cause a disturbance in society. Yes, we've seen this happen. We've seen this happen so many times in our society that if people are not following the instructions of the acharyas properly but are watering it down and they're creating their own self-styled thing, then it just simply creates the chaos and destruction. We've seen it time and again. And for the sake of understanding this point, I would like to draw a movement from the history of our International Society of Krishna Consciousness. There was one very, very charismatic and prominent leader. Everyone loved him. He was so amazing. He was just like one of the most, charismatic and, close to Srila Prabhupada. And he was really, really like, on point on some of the things. But then later on, due to this misunderstanding, due to insufficiently presenting the science of pure devotional service, what happened? They started introducing activities and practices which aren't bona fide at all. For example, I was with one Prabhupada disciple who was with this devotee that I'm talking about, and he told me that how when you're having abhishek for the deities of Radha and Krishna, when you're having abhishek for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have you bathe them in all these different paraphernalia items. So what they did was he would sit on the same platform as these deities and they would bathe him. Like how they're bathing so one pujari worships Radha Krishna, one pujari worships Gonatai, and one pujari worships this devotee. And on the same, they're worshipping him with all these different items. Then they'd have aarti plate, and on the aarti plates they would keep joints of marijuana. They would keep weed, blunts, right? They would keep blunts on these things. And some devotees, when they're taking the artis, they could take the blunt and they could light up the blunt and they could smoke it and they chant japa. And when they're chanting japa, they'd be really ecstatic and they'd have like ecstatic symptoms all over their bodies and this they would promote. Yeah, you should take LSD. You take LSD and chant Hare Krishna. You see, you're going to be in the next level. You're going to be amazing. You're going to have full realization of Krishna. And all these things were said, and many people did it. So many people did it. And this went on for some time and it was really amazing. And my Guru Maharaj, knew this personality very well. And then, he went to Bangladesh. And, back then, even now, you may find it hard in Bangladesh villages to find a phone call and, all this. But back in the day, back in the 80s, when was he in Bangladesh? 80s, right? Late 70s and the early 80s. if somehow or other, finally, got the opportunity to call up the devotees in this particular place, and he asked them, so how's it going? And they're like, oh man, you're missing everything, this Acharya, he's so amazing, he's chanting and he just like falls off the Vyasasan, and he's like, really, really so ecstatic, and he's like shivering, and he's getting all these symptoms and all that, and Guru Maharaj is like, oh my God, I'm seeing all these people in Bangladesh, the Prakrita Sahajas do exactly this. Oh my God, you guys are thinking this guy is a great avatar or great God knows what, but in reality the Prakrita Sahaja misleading all of you. Fully bewildered, fully confusing. And then then after all this drama for some time, what happened is this guy took a bunch of followers with him somewhere else, and it ended in such a horrible way that one of his followers cut his head off. That's how it ended. I'm sorry, sad but true. It needs to be spoken. If you don't sufficiently present the science of devotional service, this sort of stuff is going to happen. And it's happened over and over and over again. We've seen this in a history of our movement, so many instances. This is from from the generation we could see. Even before that, if you really wanted, there was a great follower of Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada's follower was so amazing that he said, so basically, he had like all these different disciples, and he said, okay, such and such disciple, you're going to take care of the kirtan. Such and such disciple, you're going to take care of, maintaining the mat. Such and such disciple, you're going to take care of making sure the, harmonious is being published properly. Such and such disciple, you make sure that all the flowers and the deity worship of Krishna is amazing. Okay, such and such disciple, you make sure that all the yajnas and everything that needs to be performed at the right time is going to be performed. But this one disciple, our such and such Prabhu, he will be explaining to us and keeping secure the great teachings of Rupa Goswami. He is going to explain to you, he's going to be the perfect ideal example of Rupanuga Gaudiya Vaishnava. He is going to be such a person. And this personality, he was so close to Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada that, he even like in a dream partially saw Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada's, eternal position in the spiritual world. And he was so amazing and he was so qualified. And then, once Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada left, he cried and he rejected his guru and he burned down. You see, like Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada had like when Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada would speak, his disciples would simply have to make like footnotes. You see, because he's been speaking so much, and they'll make footnotes, and from those footnotes would come like so many articles and so many pages. You see, and just a collection of these footnotes, they were collected and they were kept in a particular place. And one disciple, it told that just the collection of the footnotes was of a greater volume than the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is huge. It has so many thousands of verses. Huge. 100,000 verses. But this, just footnotes, bullet points, was greater than 100,000 pages. And then this disciple burnt that, destroyed it, rejected his guru, spoke against. All these things. Why was it happening? Because due to insufficiency in presenting the science of devotional service. The duty of a guru is to point out the defects of the disciple. That's what's happening right now. Narada knew the defect. The guru is supposed to know the defect. The guru is supposed to know that what you're doing is mixed devotional service. You cannot cheapen Krishna consciousness like this. You have to practice all this. The guru heavily speaks against Mayavad. The guru heavily speaks against Sahajavad. Guru does that, and he protects his disciples from following in such a way. Some of Prabhupada's disciples, they would go to Radhakund, and then they'd have this like cool necklace, and they'd have like the cool Radhakund tilak, and where did you go? Who asked you to go? Why did you go there? Prabhupada would be quivering in anger. Why did you go there? Who asked you to do this? What did they tell you? Prabhupada would ask. Jayabhata Maharaj, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, said, we don't care what color your tilak is, we don't care which part of the world you live, we don't care how many rounds you chant, we don't care how big your temple is. If you're not a follower of Rupa Goswami, get out. That's our line. So our Acharya, so Srila Prabhupada was so furious, he was quivering, when such things happened. And the bona fide guru, the bona fide disciple, in the line of Srila Prabhupada, does the same thing. He if like he protects his disciples from Mayavad and Sahajavad. He doesn't go and mix with them and hug them and say, wow, everyone is so wonderful and you're so beautiful, and make like a public relation with them. Prabhupada said that all such public relation stuff is just a useless waste of time. No solution. Nothing. Ain't nothing going to happen. Yes, Srila Prabhupada once or twice, he had this so-called Mayavadi interfaith stuff, and then they were speaking in Hindi. The disciples asked him, Srila Prabhupada, what were you talking for 2 hours? He said, Srila Prabhupada said, I was simply smashing them the whole time. The whole time Prabhupada was chopping down all their arguments and presenting that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if we don't do that, if we glorify, if we openly speak about and publicly distribute the glories of the Mayavadis, are we strictly following the line of Rupa Goswami? Are we sufficiently presenting the science of devotional service? Or are we doing what's convenient for us and making it into a cult, like a personality cult? Making it into a personality cult. Like, if you say anything against this person, you're like, what's wrong with you? How can you do this? How can you? Like this example that I was giving about this guy who had his head chopped off. If you spoke anything at all against the stuff he was doing, how can you say he's a pure devotee? Pure, he's understood, he's like, just like how Srila Prabhupada cut down 64 rounds to 16 rounds. He's cut down 16 rounds to smoking 16 rounds, smoking a joint and chanting a 16 rounds. He's cut it down to that. How can you say like that? How can you? LSD helps. Can't you see all the ecstatic symptoms all over his body? Can't you see? You're so lucky to be in the presence of such a personality. What do you know? What do you know? You're just a bhakta. How long have you been practicing devotional service? How can you? Anyone with even half a brain can tell you this is bogus. Anyone half a brain. Like you see, you don't have to, like for example, if a particular person, a Mayavadi book, you take a Mayavadi book, right? And if you want to see if it's bogus or not, it's just like the example of cooking rice. I'm not such a good cook, but I know this much, that if you're cooking rice, what you do is, if you want to know if the whole container is cooked, you simply take one grain and you see if it's soft enough. And if it's soft enough, then the whole container is considered cooked. Similarly, you take any part of these books and you just see, is it glorifying Krishna only or no? If it's not, bogus. It's bogus. So if you're not sufficiently presenting the science of devotional service, that is a defect. And the nature of the Guru is actually to point out these defects in the disciple. That's the nature of the Guru Parampara. We were hearing yesterday, Rama Prabhu was recounting that, they were all in Vrindavan, and then they made like all these arrangements in the Krishna Balaram Mandir, and they had the bookstall open, and they had this, and they had so many things. And they're saying, Srila Prabhupada, isn't it wonderful? We have the books. It's Srila Prabhupada, isn't it wonderful? We have the deity. Srila Prabhupada, isn't it wonderful? We have this. Isn't it wonderful? Prabhupada, then he said, then he became very grave. He's saying, you're saying everything is first class, but I'm saying everything is 10th class, because I've come 5,000 miles to simply point to you that there's a pigeon nest in the chandelier. Clean it immediately. To get stuff done in Vrindavan for a Westerner, even now is hard. What to speak of back in the day? Back in the day, people would be cheated left, right and center. People would be cheated, fool. So bad, so many. Somehow his disciples gathered so much strength and so much this and that, and they actually did it. What did Prabhupada do? Pointing out the defects. He didn't say, wow, wonderful. He didn't, let's, the Mayavadis was, come on, let me talk to all my disciples. And such and such. Wow. Thank you so much. So, Mayavadis do that. We've seen Ravi Shankar, they do all these things. So beautiful. You're doing great service. Great. You're chanting Hare Krishna. Good. Ravi Shankar, they do that, you see. And then they also have like static, there's a video of Ravi Shankar, and he showed me that somebody chanting, he's doing that the whole time, and oh my God, Mahabharata, God knows what they're thinking. He's doing that. Everyone's like, oh my God, oh my boo-boo, and what the heck is he? If I do that, once, actually, amazingly enough, once Prabhupada was sitting and chanting japa, and then this guy, some random Indian, he came in front of Srila Prabhupada, oh Krishna, and he fell on the floor and he was rolling, and Prabhupada didn't care a fig for that guy, and he just kept chanting, and then the guy, after he realized that Prabhupada didn't notice him at all, stood up and left. And so you see, the acharyas, they know what's truth and what's untruth. They don't, you guys are so, everyone's such wonderful, so beautiful. You're maintaining the yoga well so beautifully. Oh, thank you. They don't do all that. They point out the defects. This is the defect. The defect is you're not surrendering to Krishna. But no. But what happens is you create a personality cult that you glorify someone, and because they're getting puja and loba and pratishtha from you, then they stay. And the minute the puja and pratishtha goes, they go. Why? How else is it possible that all these great personalities, great acharyas, the great commanders of Srila Prabhupada's army would leave like that? And what happened to the great number of followers that they accrued? Why did they leave? Because they didn't get the devotional service was insufficiently explained. You see? And they try giving you a cure, like for example, you want to become spiritual, and I teach you to do Ayurvedic cooking. Right? So will Ayurvedic cooking do something good for you? Like, okay, maybe for your body, right? So they say, oh, Prabhu, you can't understand Krishna if they give up meat, unless they give up meat. But see, now they're giving up meat and they're becoming vegans, Prabhu. They're not even vegans, they're even better than you. They're vegans, Prabhu. You're drinking milk, they're vegans. See, Prabhu, Ayurvedic cooking, Prabhu, it's amazing, Prabhu. How much they elevate. But is that the cure? Maybe they become vegetarian, but are they becoming pure? Are they becoming devotees? Are they taking to pure devotional service? Are they following the four regulative principles? You must see that the nature of the material world is that a cure is offered, but the cure is worse than the disease. That is our disease. We think that something in the material world, some so-called cure coming from the material world, can be a solution to our problems. But the only solution to all our problems is Krishna Prema. And how do you get Krishna Prema? Is by serving Krishna. It's by saying, akama sarva kama va moksha kama dharadi. Tivrena bhakti yogina yajeta purusham param. Acharyas actually explain akama, there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, aksharanam akaro asmi. He says that among all the letters, he's the letter a. So akama is actually Krishna. So if you have akama, if you have kama for Krishna, that's the ultimate goal of life, is to give you that. If you have kama for Atmendriya Priti Vanchatari Bali Kam, Krishnendriya Priti Icha Dhare Premanam, that if the goal is to satisfy the senses of Krishna, that is prema. If the goal is to satisfy your senses, it's lust. And that must be explained properly. But due to this insufficient explanation of Veda Vyas, then, Jugupsitam, you're going to create a huge disturbance in society. So in order to prevent us from creating a great disturbance in society, Veda Vyas and the bona fide disciplic succession coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, our bona fide spiritual master, they come and they repeatedly deliver unto us, Narada, they deliver unto us the bona fide message of the absolute truth. They deliver unto us the message coming down from the Guru Parampara, preach the absolute truth, putting aside all other things. Put aside everything. You have this upadhi to be a rapper, yeah. Okay, I'm a Krishna conscious, yeah. And you can do like that, yeah, I'm Krishna conscious, I'm a such and such rapper. And like you have so many people in Mayapur where they have like rap contests and rapping about Krishna. You see some guy wearing Krishna reigns supreme. And like if you're not using this for like something just to distribute books, and you just like you reject all these things as external, and like you don't need it at all for Krishna consciousness, but instead of simply using this to get them to somehow they take a book or like somehow they chant Hare Krishna and pull them in and give up this nonsense, you bring this nonsense into Sridham Mayapur. You bring these nonsense into Sridham Mayapur. How bogus, how nonsense is this? So we need the acharyas, they come again and again and explain to us, Sarvopadi Vinir Muktam Tatparatvena Nirmalam, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. That give up these upadhis that you've got from your material life. It's not that the Guru doesn't bring, basically the idea is you have to bring people in. But you bring people in and you keep them on that platform. You bring people in as hippies and you leave them as hippies. You see, some of our devotees, they actually look like just like hippies. Like they wear like, sometimes they wear like a cool jeans and maybe like a cool kurta and with a cool beard and with some hair like that and some, like bro, why did you just join in the 66 and just like, back in the day, hippies would come to 2nd Avenue and they'd spread their feet out to Srila Prabhupada. They do. So If you see some of them are like that. Like, what's wrong with you? Can't you be like a civilized human being? Can't you look like a civilized human being? No, they cannot. Why? Because the science of devotional service isn't being properly explained, insufficiently explained. So the acharyas come again and again and chastise us when we are not presenting, when we are insufficiently presenting the message, preaching the message of the absolute truth, and they deliver unto us the gunarna, praptasya kalyana gunarna vasya, vande guru Sri Charanaravindan, pranamami sada Prabhupāda padam. Let us always remain at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and his faithful followers. I'm going to end my class here, if there's any questions or comments.
One correction. It is not that only devotees, mixed devotees who are not become purified will go to the heavenly planets.
Right.
The karmakandis, especially the karmakandis, there are tons of people in India, especially brahmanas, very strictly follow rules, and it's amazing. Some of them, they're still there today.
Wow, okay, I was unaware.
So, I mean, there are quite a number of them. It's not hard to find them, and they're not devotees, they're Mayavadis. But because they've come under the Vedic system of
following
practice, they can go to the heavenly planets. And in fact, that's their aim in many cases. Most of them, their aim for most of them is to go to the heavenly planets and come back to So,
yeah. Speaking of this karma kanda, they actually in karma kanda, it's so geared upon sense gratification that they some of the brahmanas, they chant the mantras, but if you ask them what they mean, they say, you don't need to know the meaning of the mantras. The thing is that if you chant it properly with the proper meter, you will get the desired result. So what's the need to know the meaning? Absolutely no philosophy. That's what the karmakandis do, that they don't even want to know the philosophy, or they don't even want to know the meaning of a particular mantra. They just want to just chant it and get the result and finish process. Come back, do the same thing again, finish. That's all they see that in life.
Yeah, and another point that I had was the self-sufficiency. I was thinking insufficiency, not self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
Insufficiency in presenting devotional service. It's interesting how the truth is Vyasadeva presented devotional service,
but not sufficiently.
It's not sufficient. Prabhupada uses the word insufficient. So there is such a thing called as insufficient presentation of Krishna consciousness. And most of the time, devotees they just want to, they completely neglect this principle, ignore this principle, with the excuse that somehow or the other they must be engaged.
Right.
Somehow or the other they must be engaged. See, that somehow or the other can be there, but it still has to be sufficient. Prabhupada's engaging of devotees in Krishna consciousness, not devotees, the public in Krishna conscious activities, he also did somehow or the other, but that was a sufficient process, which meant that from one it led to another. That basically it led to further purification.
Right.
But devotional service that does not lead to purification is insufficient. Yeah. Just like, we were reading this, a devotee had posted this morning, I read to you.
Right.
I live in Paris, so I need to present Harinam to the people of Paris, and to sufficiently present the Harinam to them.
In a way that will gratify their senses.
Just to make them feel more connected and presented in a more appropriate manner for Parisians. I need to use Parisian instruments in the Harinam, and therefore I need to buy an accordion for 400 euros. So please donate, and with this I will be able to more effectively spread the holy name. But the underlying notion, it looks like very harmless. Oh wow, what a wonderful intention, what a glorious desire. He wants the people of Paris to take Harinam. But underlying that is this rascaldom feeling that
it's not
the
enough.
original practice of Krishna consciousness is insufficient for people to take up. So that's actually offensive. That mridanga, kartal, and other instruments, yeah. Those the John, the wampers and all that. So that they're insufficient.
Yeah.
It's actually also a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It's not by
your musical abilities that people will get purified.
Chanting Hare Krishna. It's by your purity that they're going to take that up. So this also this idea, we will dress differently, we'll do this, we'll do that.
Yeah. Since you brought that up.
And at this point also, this akama is very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Since you brought that up, we see this happening so much in a society that Prabhupada's books aren't enough. People don't have the intelligence enough to to understand Srila Prabhupada's books. So you want to water it down to such a level that they understand where they're at, and then you bring them. But it's like this understanding of indirect preaching. So I have an open challenge to everyone in this room. Can you tell me indirectly that I'm not my body? You can't. If I have to tell you you're not your body, you're not your body. Indirectly tell me, present to me indirectly that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Don't tell it to me directly. Somehow indirectly, how can, because that's how the whole process is, that you can't ascend to the spiritual world. You can't ascend to this. You can't sit and meditate and do your yoga asanas and figure out that God is a guy who plays the flute and he's bluish color. You cannot figure that out. Vedesha sarver ahameva vedya vedant krit veda ved evacham. Krishna is the source of all Vedas. What I'm thinking about, Advaitam achyutam anadam ananta rupam adhyam purana purusham nava yovanam cha vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. That even through the Krishna is hard to find out even through the Vedas. Even through the Vedas, Krishna had to find. So, what to speak of, through the Vedas, what to speak of speculation? If you speculate, you can never figure it out. Krishna is Supreme Person. Therefore, the devotion service needs to be presented sufficiently. Anything else? Yes, Prabhu.
Just coming to what you said, and I had a question. One, I don't know if it's really indirect, but I heard Guru Maharaj explain, and I can explain it like this also, because in the West, some people, they don't generally accept, if you tell them you're not your body or the soul, they don't accept the soul, but they do accept, that you're not chemicals, not wires in the body.
Right.
That angle seems to work sometimes. But one thing I was going to ask was, Prabhupada's making the point here, and you made it also, that if devotional service is insufficiently explained, many problems will come. But it seems like problems still come, even though devotional service is explained very nicely. Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, you gave different examples of leaders that were serving under their spiritual masters, and then they had difficulties, even though devotional service was explained perfectly.
Right. So this thing, he was quoting actually Srila Prabhupada. He was saying that devotional service is simple, but it's not easy. Yeah. The instructions are very clear, but are you willing to receive those instructions and follow them just like how you received them? Or do you want to mix up your false understanding with a real understanding, and then get that all intermixed and not understand what is what, and then that leads to confusion and chaos. You see, that's the whole point of deviation. That this one line going up, even if you deviate a small degree, eventually the lines are going to go different places. Yes, Prabhu.
Just wanted to add to this thing. I think it has to be understood clearly what is quote-unquote problem. When devotional service is not sufficiently presented, the problem is that pure devotion becomes unavailable.
Okay.
That is the problem. That pure devotion is unavailable, and therefore the conditioned souls are unable to achieve the highest benefit of practicing pure devotion service. That is the problem. Now, when devotional service is sufficiently presented, there might be some insincere people, there will be people who take advantage of the institution, and but these are not quote unquote problems. The real loss would be if the pure message of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam becomes unavailable. That is the greatest misfortune. You know, because we are preaching to conditioned souls anyways, everyone's not going to take it up completely. And in that situation, there are going to be people who, misuse, and that's expected. But that is not what the acharyas are terming here as the problem.
No, but his question was that, although it was explained properly, it's not like Bhaktivedanta and Srila Prabhupada didn't sufficiently explain it.
Right.
Although being explained properly, why did that happen?
But that's because they are conditioned souls. But they explained it sufficiently, therefore the pure message is still available.
Right.
But if it was insufficiently explained, yoga nashta parantapa. Now it's not yoga nashta parantapa yet. I mean, Krishna didn't have to personally come re-establish it. So that is the loss. The problem is when yoga nashta parantapa, when the science becomes lost to the extent that it cannot be found in human society anymore. That is the actual problem. So the problems of presenting Krishna consciousness insufficiently and sufficiently are not the same. When you present Krishna consciousness sufficiently, what arises due to the misuse of the conditioned souls is not termed as a problem in comparison with that when devotional service is insufficiently presented. Is this understandable?
Yeah, I understand. There's different categories.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it's not even, it doesn't even closely compare
Yeah, I
to
understand.
that.
The one hand you can go back to Godhead, the other hand you can't.
Yeah, so it's major difference.
Yeah. So.
No, but someone may argue that better insufficient than zero, and there's these conditioned souls who can't take full sufficient bhakti, and if you explain to them, they'll exploit you or whatever.
But what you're giving to them,
people, it's better you give insufficient.
right? What you're giving to them,
And then where do they go?
not only that, you're giving them the offended holy name.
They go to the heavenly planets. You could go to so many ways. You could go to
Pious credit, and then go next life, and then
they could get pious credits without having to present Krishna. The point is, there are so many people who are pious in this world, but they are condemned in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Anyways, what's the use? What's the use? What's the use of millions of pious people? That's the point. You don't understand the philosophy. One moon is better than thousands of stars, but you don't get that. So you don't get that. That's your problem.
In one sense, you could say presenting insufficient bhakti is as good as not presenting it altogether.
Yeah,
It's actually more harmful. It's more harmful because because what you're giving them a platform to cause offenses over and over again. Because you're causing them offenses, they have actually become pious. They become so offensive that they cannot really even take to Krishna consciousness properly. That you give them a platform on which they can actually stand and do so much aparadh. Narada Muni tells the way. Okay, so all these guys are so pious. The Hari Ashwas and the Shaval Ashwas, they were so pious. What did Narada Muni tell them? Kim asat karma bhir bhavet. He said, what use is your good karma and what use is your good activity? If you can't take the pure devotional service. You see, so you give them a half-baked message, it's not going to get them anything good because it's not according to Shastra. Yes, Shastra with the mutse jaya vartate kamakarata nasa siddham avapnoti nasukam na param gatim. That because you're not following devotional service which is in line with the scriptures, then you won't get happiness in this life or in the next life, not perfection. You won't get anything because you're not presenting the message properly. So you may get like this, Taividyamam so papu tapapam. You may get that, you may have, he's so nice, living in the nice mode of goodness house, and I'm a vegetarian. I went to this Kirtan Mela and I found a vegetarian girlfriend, and we eat vegetarian and we smoke weed and it all tastes good and feels good and sounds good. All these things can be there, but you're giving them a platform to actually cause offenses to Krishna. And what does Chaitanya Charitamrita tell us? Bahujanma Kariya Dishavan Kirtan Tabutana Paya Krishna Paya Prema Dan. That even if you chant the offended holy names for millions and millions of births, you will not get love of God, which is the ultimate goal of the chanting. If you're not telling them about the ultimate goal of the chanting, what are you giving them? You're giving them a platform to create aparadh. Nam aparadh is the worst. Nam aparadh is the worst.
So could you say that no nam is better than nam aparadh?
So basically, Now, what's it? If you ain't chanting Shuddha now, you ain't got nothing, you ain't getting nothing, you ain't giving it. So like if you're not trying to follow in the line of those who have given you the pure holy name, if you're not following the method that's presented to you by those who have followed, the acharyas and have attained the same thing, and if you're simply sticking to the process, if you stay, although you are cold, ice cold iron, coming from the Arctic Ocean, Antarctica, and the iron has been stuck in Antarctica for so long, and you take that iron rod and you somehow throw it into the fire of Sankirtan, eventually that ice and impurities are all going to melt down and that iron is going to become fire. So our process is so purifying that if we simply stick to the process given by the acharyas, that although we are impure, because we are sticking and we're repeating the message of the perfected souls, we ourselves will become pure, and because we are following them and not using our mental speculation to present the philosophy, when we present it to someone, they'll also get this. Ultimately, it's a question of purity. Ultimately, it's a question of that. If you think, Hare Krishna, but karmic grains and Hare Krishna and yoga girls, it's what is it? It's not what the acharyas came to give us. So Nam, if you're chanting, actual chanting of Nam is better than anything else. So you actually give them the real thing, following the real process given by the acharyas, then great. Otherwise, if you speculate your own thing and create your own thing. There's so many sahajas. This is Upper Sampradaya in Bengal called Gauranga Nagris. Gauranga. They're actually vegetarian. Wow. They don't even eat fish. Pious. They chant Hare Krishna. They worship, their deity worship standards are as good as our ISKCON temples. But if you go, almost as good as ISKCON. If you go to their temple and you see, you'll have a deity of Lord Chaitanya with I don't know, Vishnu Priya holding a flute or something. What is their understanding? That Lord Chaitanya is the enjoyer of the girls of Navadvip. That is their understanding. So they're doing everything right, but they have such an amazing misconception that it's all Shamayeva Hi Kevalam. Or even worse. Shamayeva Hi Kevalam at best. So, okay. Granthra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki. Sufficiently presenting the science of devotional service ki. Jaya.